Hi, my name is Yazmeen Mirgoli. I'm a director, producer, and a multidisciplinary artist that currently lives in Los Angeles, California. And today I'm going to be talking about my short film, Abduction. Abduction is about my experience being institutionalized by my mother when I was 15 years old. My mom suffered from a number of mental health issues that were not properly diagnosed and definitely not properly treated. And as a result of that, she went from being this very kind and loving and like really wonderful person and a mother to just being incredibly abusive. And I was her favorite target. She had kind of been on this campaign for years to have me put onto medications that would have sedated me to a point that she would have kind of complete control over me. Fortunately, she didn't succeed in doing that, but this culminated in having me institutionalized when I was 15. I was strapped down to a bed, I was drugged, and I was held hostage for 9 days. The first 6 days of that were in a standard hospital where they continued to renew the 5150, which is a medical legal hold in the state of California, despite not having any sort of legal justification or justification in general to do so. And they just were like, well, we have to place you, we have to do this, or you have to do this, and it was just forced on me. I had no rights, I had no control, I had no autonomy, and my mother just sat there and just was thrilled. She had finally gotten what she had wanted, which was me being put into a position where she could completely control me. She wanted me to be completely enmeshed with her. I was meant to be an extension of her. I was not meant to be my own actualized person. I was not meant to be anything apart from what she projected onto me and wanted me to be. And that's a very challenging thing, I think, for anyone to deal with, but particularly when you are as when you're the way I am, you're very, very clear in your sense of self and always have been. It's a really challenging thing to deal with, and trying to suppress myself and, kind of be compliant in whatever ways, and then constantly having that goalpost move is very, very challenging. So the video ultimately explores that experience. The major theme of the video is this idea of death and rebirth, and that's something that's really been constant throughout all of my work. But we see this on a lot of different levels in abduction. Of course, there's like my physical death when I set myself on fire at the end, and then I'm sort of reborn in that. We see kind of the crucifixion and resurrection of Christ. But it's actually a lot further than that. We from the get-go, I am put into the kind of submissive, innocent, pure Yaz is dragged across the hospital floor, drugged, held down on a bed, gagged, put into a straitjacket, and then left for dead. And then that's juxtaposed with these images of me as this dominatrix. And what happens is, as I'm put into progressively like further and further more restrictive bondage, the dominatrix is born. This kind of dominant, powerful character who is not controlled by anyone. And we see this through kind of the costuming as well. When I started as a dominatrix, I'm in a hobble dress and a pair of 7-inch little shoebox stilettos that are like, for anyone who's familiar with Betty Page, like proper fetish heels that are like this. Like you can't. I can walk in them barely, and the hobble dress is down to my ankle, so it's literally like deep, 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 like little tiny steps that you can take. Even standing in that is difficult. And that was done intentionally of like, I'm still in bondage at that point, like, where I'm being put into bondage in a submissive role, but as I start as the dominant character, when I'm in Hades now, preparing to go to this Last Supper, preparing to go to what will ultimately be my death, I'm still in bondage. And then we go to the Last Supper scene, and I'm still in a hobble dress. This one is above the knees. I'm able to move more. And again, it's Last Supper. Like, I know what's coming. I know my death is coming. But there's liberation and freedom in that. And once I'm crucified, once I'm resurrected, we see I'm in Hades and I'm in a patent leather corseted bodysuit. We actually custom made for my last video, Heresy. There's no restriction. There's no bondage. I'm able to move. And once I am free to do that, once I have died on that level, I've been resurrected, then I'm able to go and kill off the submissive side. Once I'm able to kill off the person who had no power. And we see that on a lot of different levels in the video. That's kind of the major thematic influence of death and rebirth and the loss of innocence leading to one's power. The basic myth is Persephone is like the maiden queen, her mother Demeter, queen of like agriculture and grain. And Persephone is essentially enmeshed with her mother. Her mother's hyperprotective. She doesn't let her go anywhere or do anything, and she's like very controlling. Depending on what version of the myth you read, she's either kidnapped or she willingly goes. And either she's sexually assaulted or she willingly kind of steps into her own sexual autonomy and power and claims agency over that, and through that process becomes the queen of hell. And so it is through the loss of her innocence, which I would actually argue is through the cutting of the cord of enmeshment with her mother, that she is able to become self-actualized and she's able to step into her power. People always look at Persephone as this kind of virginal maiden story and like look at her, this archetype of virginity and things of that nature. But I actually think that it's a lot broader than that, and it speaks more so to a narrative of what cords do we need to cut, what enmeshment do we need to be removed from in order to step into our power. My friend Dave has this great bondage book, and I was asking him, I was like, hey, like, who did the rope in your book? Like, the ties are amazing. Like, they're doing suspensions. Like, this looks great. And he's like, oh, like, that's Damon. Like, here's his number. Like, reach out to him. Because I was saying, like, I need someone for this film I want to shoot in January. And he's like, here's his number. Like, reach out to him. Super nice guy. Like, you know, and he was just kind enough to give me his information. So then I reached out to Damon. We hopped on the phone, and I was like, okay, I want to be tied up on the cross like rope Jesus and being like, you know, crucified and reborn. He's like, okay, sounds great. Did not bat an eye when I said that. He was just like, great, yeah, we can do that. This is how we can do it. That was like October. And then over the next few months, we just, you know, I was sending him reference images of what I was looking at, but there was nothing out there that was like what we did. There's some Hajime Kanoko works that were really great, and he does a lot of decorative rope, which is something I wanted. However, all of his stuff is tied by a team. So Damon did all of this by himself, which Damon is a brilliant artist. He was in France, and he's like, oh, I was at the Louvre, and I was looking at these images of like the Madonna and like looking at these celestial beams of light, and that's what I was thinking we would do, like tying celestial beams of light from your body with this decorative rope and then having you in this harness. And I'm like, that sounds perfect. Like, let's do it. He tied me into that in 25 minutes, which is insane. You see like the detail, especially of the rope work, absolutely insane. It looks, I mean, not even just detail or like doing it safely. That's obviously very important. That's first priority, but the artistry of it on top of that, if it's this beautiful geometric design, everything is perfect, everything is symmetrical. It's just, it's a testament to how genius Damon is and how great his work is. We ended up shooting that scene at, it was 11:30 at night. It was pouring down rain in Los Angeles, which is not normal weather for here. It was freezing cold. I'm like, it was funny because every time the camera was off, I was literally like shivering. Physically, like my teeth were chattering because I was so freezing. And the second we got the lights up and I was pulled up, everyone was like, oh my God, like this is insane. And then we saw, obviously you can see on camera what it looks like, and Damon did a very rare thing. He superseded my expectations, which is next to impossible to do, but he did it. So shout out to Damon, he's the best. No one has ever done a suspension like that before. It's the first of its kind, and it's really beautiful, and the way that it came together is absolutely amazing. What inspired the video ultimately, there were kind of two main things. So obviously my experience going to the psychiatric hospital, and even more than that really is this journey of individuation that I've been on. And for a long time, I kind of hid behind the armor of Yaz. You know, I created this hyper feminine, larger than life fantasy figure that, you know, was braver and stronger and more powerful than me as Yazmeen Mirgoli ever was. And I created something stronger than I was to protect me from a world because I was never protected. For a really long time, I've just lived in that rather than being able to be me fully, you know, rather than being Yazmeen Mirgoli. And it's odd because I haven't gone by the name Yazmeen in a really long time because it's someone that I tried, I think, to symbolically leave behind, because I thought that if I did that, then I would be able to leave behind all of the pain and suffering and trauma that that person, that I, because obviously it's who I am, have endured. And obviously that doesn't work. You can't just leave that behind. There's no escaping yourself. But it's been this process of unity and of finding myself again. And it's of combining that, of like, I can be both, you know, the sensitivity and the vulnerability that I have. I'm actually a very sensitive person, which is why the armor of Yaz has to be that much more protective, because I'm protecting something that is so sensitive and vulnerable on the inside. But I can coexist. And I think it's interesting is when you watch the video at the very end, you see that I set myself on fire and I like symbolically kill myself. I went back and forth before we shot it, like, well, which version of me am I killing Yaz? Am I killing Yazmeen? I'm killing off the artifice. I'm killing off everything that I'm not, so then I can just be me. The weakness is killed off, but the vulnerability is not. It's the merging of both aspects of myself and being able to be an actualized being in that way. That has been the biggest inspiration of the video and the biggest derivative from it.